Governor Jerry Brown, whom I worked for 4 years, his first time around, has signed on this issue of campus rape, campus sexual assault, what's called the Yes Means Yes legislation in California, considered kind of groundbreaking legislation, also somewhat controversial. What does it mean? What does it require, first of all? What does it say?
Right. So it just kind of changes the standard for how you define a sexual assault. It's always been no means no. So in the absence of a no, that could imply consent. And the absence of a no longer implies consent in California. Both parties have to actively suggest, either verbally or through gestures, that they want to have sex, and they can revoke consent at any time. So it's really, as it says, yes means yes, and no does not.
Okay. So yes, does it have to be like, when you're on the in the exit row on the airline, right? And the flight attendant comes along and says, "You're sitting here, and I have to know that if we get in trouble, you are willing to help me open this door." And if you're sitting there, sometimes people just go, and she said, "No, I need to hear it. You have to say it out loud. Yes."
So the bill states that it doesn't have to be a verbal yes. It can be a verbal yes, but it can also just be moving closer to someone or indicating in some way that you are coherent and awake and not passed out and wanting to have sex.
It could be a nod of the head.
It could be a nod of the head or anything like that.
Or
exactly.
Something like that, right? Okay.
I think what they're trying to avoid here is him saying, well, she didn't say no, and it turns out that she was nearly passed out or extremely incapacitated or something like that. So the absence of no just doesn't mean consent.
Well, I was going to ask you about that next. What about a case where I'm reading between the lines here, or maybe it's in print, actually in the bill. I haven't read the bill itself. So if a woman or man, but we're talking about a woman here mostly, is unconscious, is drunk, is like drugged out or whatever,
then she cannot say yes.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's impossible for that person to say yes.
Yes, and I think that is the whole point of the bill, I think, is to get at those cases where in a trial the accused rapist says, well, she didn't say no, and she was so drunk that she couldn't really say anything. So I think that's kind of what they're trying to get at here. They're changing the conversation. And it's interesting. In all my years, it's the first time I've ever seen anything like this. And when we were talked to when I was young, it was always, no means no. And that's how it was described to me in college. And the college campuses.
So that if you didn't say no, it was considered okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is a pretty big license to
leaves
do
a lot of gray
anything.
area.
Yeah. Yeah.
And colleges have such a big rape problem right now. 55 college campuses are under investigation by the federal government for mishandling rape cases right now.
55?
55 universities. At the last time I checked, that was the number. Under investigation by the Department of Education for mishandling their sexual assault cases. And the latest statistic I've seen in terms of how common it is that 1 in 5 women have been sexually assaulted at school. And it's just horrifying. And so I think California it's sort of experimental. We don't know if it's going to work, but I think they're just trying something.
Wow. And there's some people who say that, well, a law like this is just trying to legislate or regulate something that really can't be legislated, like human sexuality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and there are so many factors that go into it, right?
Exactly.
That it's hard to say, right? You got to do this by the book, right? There's a certain spontaneity that's lacking if you've got the rule book out and you're
right. And I guess it would be one thing if the rule book said, you have to move your arm this way and you have to do this. But I think just generally defining consent is more of sort of you have to define what's a murder and you have to define what's a theft and all of those things in the law. And rape is a crime, too. It is sort of murky water here. But I think the same people who are saying, you government's got to get out of the bedroom are the ones trying to talk about, bosses telling you that you can't have birth control coverage and telling you that you have to have an ultrasound procedure before an abortion. And so there's lots of ways that the government is sort of stepping in and legislating people's personal affairs right now. And I guess it's just a matter of...
Is this generally received among women's organizations as the California law as the right move, a step forward?
Yeah.
Improve the situation?
I think nobody sees it as a magic pill that's going to cure campus rape, but I think most.
I'm not sure magic pill is the best phrase.
Oh, sorry, that's not what I was going for. A panacea. I mean, I don't know.
Okay,
it's not going to cure rape.
Yes.
But I think progressive groups, they appreciate the national conversation that it is causing, and maybe in California, men, particularly men, will be a little more careful in deciding when and who to sort of aggressively pursue sex with, and that would be a good thing.